Hello, everybody. My name is Zhixin Liu. I'm associate professor from the Optical Networks group. Thanks for Zero have already set the ground about wireless, so I don't need to talk about what is wireless networks. But I do want to talk about some important element very often got missed in the wireless communication systems, which is clock, and clock and carrier frequency synchronization. And this needs to be very precise clock and carrier synchronization. Before I begin, let me first give credit to everybody I work with, especially Dr. Zixin Liu, Carrie Clark, and Dr. Ahmani Kassim sitting right there. They are the people who actually work in the lab. My main responsibility is to clean the floor and make sure, splice fibers. And we received for the work I'm presenting here, we received numerous help from colleagues from BT, Menhir Photonics, and enormous help from colleagues from Rohde & Schwarz. I hope they are here. Never mind. So I believe everyone in this room has a mobile phone. When you click a Netflix video, have you ever thought about where the data come from? When you click that, actually you send currently sub 6 gigahertz signal to the base station. In the future, it might be terahertz, we hope. Currently, it's less than 6 gigahertz. And at the radio station, the wireless signal is converted into digital bits and very often sent over fiber optics all the way back to a place called central office. And this is where you have a lot of servers, computers to do the switching, sometimes optical switching, like Polaris, sometimes electronic switching. And then they send to data centers where you fetch all the data. So usually this is how things work. And needless to say that everybody has 1 or 2 mobile phones, and that really changes our lives. But this is the system currently we're working with now. And this system, I see BT colleagues there, they have been bleeding blood to develop all the fiber connections. And I'm sure they definitely don't want to build another infrastructure on top of it. So moving forward to 6G, if you want to have new user cases like flying drones, self-driving cars, or connected car fleets, or the VR, AR, or remote healthcare, all these fancy applications, you better do it on top of the existing infrastructure. You do not want to build another one, that's for sure. And but these techniques will require, this is version 0, never mind, will require significant improvement on the current infrastructure. So the network or the 5G will not just provide data, it needs to provide more functionalities. Actually, this is very often, when I talk to people, especially investors, they come back to me with 2 questions when I talk about 6G. The first one is 5G is disappointing enough, why we want 6G? The second one is, what is 6G? What exactly is that? 6G has not been standard, so we do not know. But through discussion over years, there are some common agreements what might happen in 6G, right? To start with, we need much higher speed communications. We need more than 10 times than 5G. And for point-to-point link, you probably want more than 100 gigabits per second for direct link. And you want sensing. Sensing for many wireless people means your phone can sense the environment. I found this could be particularly helpful. A couple of months ago, a crazy cyclist in London almost hit my daughter when we were trying to cross the street. If your phone can actually sense the environment and somehow trigger some IoT device to stop the kid's scooter, I will pay for that. And lastly, you want the phone to be, you want to do positioning through terrestrial-based stations. Currently, we do positioning using GNSS, a global navigation satellite system. But satellite signal is so weak, it can easily be jammed or spoofed. It's not secure. So there's a big trend to push. We do positioning using ground or fiber-based base stations. And these are the application requirements. So as an engineer, my day job is to translate the language, translate the requirement from applications to technical requirement. So here are my conclusions. To start with, we need to go to higher frequency. This is absolutely in line with what Sarah just said. You need to go to higher frequency. Currently, we are less than 6 gigahertz. You need to go to higher frequency. Higher frequency means more bandwidth. More bandwidth is the only way you can get more data over the air. Secondly, if you want to do very precise sensing or high dynamic range, you want to sense long distance range and with very high precision, you need, I apologize for the animation. I have very nice animations. You need phase synchronized carrier. What it means is, first to start with, it needs to be a very low noise. It should not move. And the synchronization means when they move, you see there are two different frequency carriers. They move together. If they move together, you can potentially have two carriers because they are phase coherent. You can do broadband radar, or you can generate a very broadband wireless communication signal to increase capacity and also to enhance your capability to sense the environment. And finally, you want, this is picosecond level clock synchronization, not necessarily pilot your drone, but maybe your cars, because if, so again, the slide is wrong, I'm sorry. If we do trilateration using clock-based trilateration, the position arrow is the timing arrow multiplied by the speed of light. This 30 picosecond is what we can do in the lab, but in the current system, you can only do about 20 nanoseconds. If you have 20 nanosecond timing accuracy multiplied by the speed of light, that gives you 6 meter arrow. You probably do not want to use that to park your car. So that's why the current 5G system cannot meet all these requirements, and we need to do better in 6G. And ideally, you want to have one system to meet all these requirements. What I want to say is, currently you can get independent systems to go to millimeter wave or even terahertz. You can have, very expensive Rohde & Schwarz signal generator to generate phase coherent tones, very nice results. And you can, if you want, you can have a very expensive Cesium clock at every base stations. But the problem is, can you afford that? So ideally, you want one solution for all, and to hit all the three birds with one stone. When I was a kid, I played, what's that called? Stone skipping? Is that? So when I play stone skipping, if you play that, to do this, you need to find the right stone. And you need to throw your stone with the right technique. So in our proposed solution, the stone is a frequency cone. And we will talk about how to use that properly to throw the stone such that you can hit all the three birds. So for those of you who are not familiar with frequency cone, it's just a light source. A light source emitting multiple equally spaced optical lines. So the frequency difference between those optical tones are exactly the same. And also they are phase coherent, meaning if I know the phase, optical phase of one tone, you can work out all the others. And for the right stone means you need to find the stone with, find the frequency cone with very low noise. So it needs to be pure optical tones on every single line. And that's the tool we are using. And how do we use that? Assuming you have the frequency stone at the central office, you can send that frequency cone over the fiber to different base stations. And here you have a photodetector. Ideally, we want a UTC, but currently, if you work with less than 40 gigahertz heterogeneous, standard PN out will work. The bit, meaning the mixing between the two optical tones, the neighboring tones, will generate a base frequency here. In this example, if the delta F is 2.5 gigahertz, you generate the first 2.5 gigahertz RF tone. And then the bit between, say, the red and green, yellow and blue will give you 5 gigahertz, so on, so forth. And if you have hundreds of tones in your frequency cone, you can go up to hundreds of gigahertz, limited only by the photodetector. And this is the base source. If you have low noise frequency cone, all these RF tones, they will have ultra low phase noise, and they will be phase coherent when we move together. So then you can, so by doing this, we solve two problems. One, you can provide the base all the way, or the carrier all the way up to millimeter wave, and they are all phase coherent and low noise. So based on this concept, we designed a front haul and a back haul system. Then this is how it works. Assuming, again, we have a frequency cone here, you throw this stone over your water, that's a radio access network. I detected using a photodetector. The lowest frequency here, delta F, is detected, extracted, and divided by a factor of k. This k can be any number. And this will give you the base clock reference. This can be 10 megahertz, 50 megahertz, or 100 megahertz in our experiment. By sending this clock over the air, your receiver can receive this base clock and with a very low phase noise, and then distribute this clock to drive all the receiver analog to the digital converters. And because all the other RF tones, 2 delta F, 3 delta F, and all the way up to n delta F, they're all phase coherent. You can use this phase coherence to do precise radar with high dynamic range. You can use low phase noise RF carriers to generate high audio modulation format. This is how you increase your capacity. And if you want, crazy people like us, we have multiple terms, and we stitch all the channels to create super channel. And this is actually the concept of 2 projects we are currently running. One is the Innovate UK project called USync in collaboration with BT and Menhir Photonics. The idea is we want to synchronize our frequency cone with remote atomic clock sources, and then distribute this frequency cone to base stations. And there's another currently a Horizon project called 6G Musical with 10 partners who are trying to develop from physical layer all the up to network layers for different applications. So these are the current projects relevant. But our role at UCL is to do the proof of concept and to do the system level study. So our first generation system is shown here. We start with our in-house built optoelectronic frequency cone. It's very simple. We drive optical intensity modulator and phase modulator using 6.25 gigahertz. And that gave us about 20 lines in the optical domain. So this is optical spectrum center at 1550. We use ultra low noise laser to start with, so all the tones has a low noise. However, if we just send this frequency cone over fiber, you will experience fading. Some frequency wouldn't exist. So we did a trick by filtering out half of the optical bandwidth, and then you can generate signal with less fading, and this is relatively constant. We can generate very high power 6.25 gigahertz, and all the phase coherent tones up to 45 gigahertz. This is limited by the photodetector we are using. So at the receiver side, we use a low pass filter to extract the lowest frequency tone and divide it to clock, send it over the fiber, and all the high frequency tones, 12.5, 25, and 37.5, are multiplied and sent over a single antenna. We did this experiment in the lab. If you really zoom in, you will see our antenna somewhere here, and we have a tape to pull the trolleys. This is the very nature of the experiment. But it proves the concept, and it works pretty well. On both noise and the transmission capacity. The figure on the left-hand side shows the noise. The solid curves are the noise, the phase noise we achieve using using our distributed signal. If you're not familiar with phase noise, so this is basically power spectral density of timing variance. Generally, if you are less than 110, you are good. If you are minus 110, if you're above minus 110, you need to improve. So if you see, in our case, we achieve, and we compare this with electronic phase lock loop, and we compare with a Texas Instrument product. Actually, this is a pretty good phase lock loop. I'm sorry about Texas Instrument. I hope no colleagues from KI, but we did about 10 times better than this KI synthesizer. They have 700. They achieved about 800 femtoseconds, which is already very, very good. But we got 80 femtoseconds integrated jitter. Using that for transmission, needless to say, we achieve very good performance, and these constellations shows that we get 1.2 gigabit per band. And you might ask why don't we use 10G, 20G? That's because they only get 3 megahertz bandwidth synchronized. Obviously too slow, too slow. And we improve. I mean, once we achieved that, we move on to test the performance at 100 gigahertz. And this is how we show we can work at a really high frequency millimeter wave. The performance is also very good. We have a test bed in our system. So by doing this, we solve two problems. High capacity millimeter wave, and we achieve low phase noise synchronized carriers, but the clock synchronization is only half solved. And I'm sorry, this is actually a very important bit, because the temperature variation introduces change in time of flight, especially after long distance fiber. If you do not stabilize the clock, if you let it random drift, you wouldn't have a very good clock. And by doing this, we did a very basic phase lock loop, clock lock loop. Assuming you send the signal over there and back, they experience the same change of time of flight. And then we can work out the difference, send it back to the transmitter, and shift the receiver clock back. So this sounds very easy, but in the lab, it's actually pretty complicated. It's actually a massive amount of work. But we did the work, and we managed to achieve less than 6.6 picoseconds timing stability as with our technique. If we do not do that, the clock will just randomly drift even within 12 hours. If you have a chance to visit our lab, you will see this crazy system over there. Anyway, so that's pretty much everything I want to talk about. We start with a very basic front hall system, but we are also expanding. We are working on developing frequency cone, currently available as a box, but we're working on the integrated version. Together with BT, we have developed the dark fiber link that provide bidirectional transmission all the way up to Industrial Park. In the lab, there's another crazy experiment. We transmit 145 gigahertz bandwidth signal and achieve 940 gigabit per second data rate. And finally, we're exploring the space sectors with our ultra-low noise millimeter wave technique. And we will very much appreciate and welcome collaborations. Thank you very much.